Welcome to Moving Conversations, a podcast for movement professionals by movement professionals. If you coach, train, or teach movement, Pilates, or fitness, then this podcast is for you. With more than 60 years of experience in fitness and Pilates, your hosts, Brian Ritchie and Nora St. John, explore the science of human movement, diving deep into the facts, myths, and common misconceptions, hoping to spark thought and conversation about how we view fitness and movement. Now, let's jump into Moving Conversations. And welcome back to Moving Conversations. I'm Brian Ritchie. Joining me as always is Nora St. John. Morning, Nora. How you doing?
Very well, Brian. It's it was raining here yesterday, which is weird here in California. We always have a weather report. You notice that at the beginning of things? Brian's coming back from China. I'm about to teach advanced movement principles here in Sacramento. It's raining. Life is grand. How about you?
Well, let's say this. The weather is always a safe topic. No matter where you are, you're going to have weather. So, and being on opposite sides of the coast, it can be really, really different. It's really interesting when they were saying, oh, this year we're going to have a real, an El Nino and all of this sort of thing. And I say, I think in the 90s, we started hearing that term pop up. I still don't know 100% what that means. If it means it's going to be bad, if it's going to be good, there'll be some hurricanes, if it's going to be not so much. So I never know. And I just am like, you know what? I want to just do the Washington, D.C. weather window where I'm just going to look outside and it is what it is. And if it's raining, oh, okay. If it's sunny, okay. I think Wednesday I needed to run an errand. I was like, oh, it's supposed to be storming out there. I went out, had all the gear on and everything, went outside, not raining at all. So it's like, I don't know. It's easier to look outside.
Yes, accordingly. What's happening? Okay, I'll deal with that. I mean, really.
Exactly.
I also have a little piece of information. So you and me, my husband, for those of you who don't know, Al, had this whole thing about a Cybertruck for a long time. And Brian, not a fan and kind of kept giving me some little bit of grief about it. So Al has now bought a pickup truck.
Oh, cool.
F-150 2008 pickup truck, just so you know.
Nice.
He's part of the pickup truck family that I know you
are
also.
Hey, welcome to the crowd. I'm a Dodge guy, but hey, I'll accept the Ford.
Anyway.
Very
all right,
good.
So today, speaking of influence.
Yes.
That was my lead-in. Brian was an influencer on that one. So we wanted to talk today a bit about just influencers and particularly fitness and Pilates influencers and what to be aware of, things to think about, just some maybe some do's and don'ts or some cautionary tales, because it is the Wild West out there, and some of it's great and some of it's not. And it's a little hard to tell, honestly. If it's well produced and looks official, it looks official.
And that's just it. I'm gullible. I'll be the first to admit. I see something that looks really cool on social media. I'll be like, ooh, that looks really cool. And I'll say, it doesn't cost that much. Let me buy it. And I'd say about 60% of the time, I'm happy. It works like it should. I'm like, this is kind of cool. About 40% of the time, I'm like, what the
heck am I doing?
What am I doing? This is the biggest piece of junk. But the way they make it look is fascinating, on screen. And so I've gotten much better about just swiping away, turning it off, not even looking at it. But where I came up with this years ago, probably a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, when we were first starting this podcast, this is a topic I wanted to talk about. And I say it like this: the difference between being an educator and an influencer. Because I think there's a huge difference.
There's a huge difference.
Because there's a lot of people who, let's face it, people want to be where we are, who want to be thought of as an expert, who want to be thought of as the teacher, who want to have all of the quote unquote glory, thinking there's a lot of money and success and all of this with this. And there are some perks, but let me tell you, my bank account sure doesn't show a whole lot of perks when it comes to that. But at the same time, it's nice to be respected for what we do. No question.
Right. Absolutely.
And I've had a number of younger people come up to me saying they want to teach with me and they want to do what I do and all of this. And a question that I always say, I say this every single time, is say, what do you got to say?
Yep.
And they just say, what do you mean? I said, you have to have something to say that's worth saying. You can't just be regurgitating everything that's out there. Or if you do, you can teach other people's stuff. There's not a problem with that. If you want to be in balanced body, parlance, an educator and teach mat 1, 2, 3, 4 and do that, great. Teach that. You can still be a teacher. But there comes that next level where you're actually creating content and really going above and beyond and becoming that next level of educator, which I think requires a lot more skill and a lot more time in the saddle and experience. And I think those are things that can't just easily be done by, I've been in the industry for 1 year and I should be teaching. I don't know about that.
Brian, you hit at least one part of the nail on the head, right? I programmed Pilates on Tours for years and years and years. And that was, I created the program and did it and Body, Mind, Spirit. And so I've been in that game of conferences, which is one version of an influencer or a presenter. There's lots of other versions now. And it was really, it was interesting to me because I had that conversation. I cannot tell you how many times people would come up, and even people who had a lot of experience would say, I really want to be a presenter. And I'd say, what do you have to teach? And they would look at me and they'd say, well, what do you want me to teach? And I'd say, no. Right. That's where if you want to be an educator for like Balanced Body or Peak or whatever, like an education program, and they give you the curriculum, fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful thing to do. Knock yourself out. There's a wonderful way for you to use your voice with other people's material. Like that's totally legitimate. But if you want to be a presenter at a conference, for example, or an independent educator of your own material, of things that you're passionate about, that's a different thing. It 100%. Takes skill, it takes experience, and honestly, it's a lot of work. I would like
a lot.
So, and this is one of those moments because I've recently had a conversation with somebody who's a good teacher, but who really was like, oh, I really want to present. I want to present, and they wanted to show me some PowerPoints and this kind of thing. And I sort of looked at them and I said, have you ever done this before? Have you ever created a workshop? No. Okay. Well, I would not be likely to put you on, at least in our world, in the fitness world, a relatively large stage without you at least having taught this at your studio or something. And then it was like, I've just thought back on how many hours I've spent, and I know you have too, creating PowerPoints and outlines and finding a plan and figuring out how I'm going to structure that in a way that makes sense. Like for that 3-hour workshop, 20 hours of work. I mean, 20 hours of work the first time, and then you always go back and edit and revise, and that's another few hours. And a lot of times those hours, you may not be sitting at the computer doing them. You may be reading something or listening to somebody else's lecture, or something else is coming in that's new information that you're trying to hone to be able to deliver. So it's just a really different process than people think.
It really is. I have
to say. It's a whole lot more work.
Yeah. When I was in China, I was approached by a large company that owns several thousand gyms that wants me to teach my courses for them. Fantastic, no problem. And they never want to pay much. They just think, well, you're just going to come in and you're only teaching for 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day. So we should pay you for those 8 hours. I said, no. You're paying me.
I'm coming to China
for me to come there. But you're also paying me for all the years of experience I have in creating this, all of the information that I've gathered from 50, 75, 105 sources, whatever it is, and filtered what I feel is important for whatever I'm teaching, and then use my experience based on all of those theories and seeing what really floats. And then a lot of it comes down to, oh, this is a different culture. Okay, so for your culture, you really want to focus on this, this, and this. Okay, so now I have to redesign the whole thing around that. So there's a lot more to it than people ever realize. And that's, I think, what's missing for a lot of people is they don't realize all the background that it takes to build that. Like you say, a 3-hour class, if it takes me 20 hours, that's small because like like you said, on the plane, just before the class. How many times have we spent? And sometimes you're looking at it. I remember one of our best friends, we're teaching together at a conference, and she comes up to me and she says, well, I haven't finished the PowerPoints yet. I said, you're teaching tomorrow? She said, yeah, well, I have this new theory and I'm not exactly sure how to make it work. I'm like, you're teaching tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk this through. Let's get this theory out because you've got all night to try and do this. And it was kind of funny and that's what you have to do. And sometimes it requires that when you do have a new train of thought or a new idea or a new concept, it's like, oh, well, why don't we try this? Well, why don't we do that? And the creation process takes a long time. I had a employee who hadn't been with me for 6 months. And she said, yeah, I'm going to be a teacher for BOSU. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to go through the courses and I'm going to teach their classes. And then I'm going to be one of their top instructors. I said, you just got out of college when? 6 months ago. Okay. You're going to be one of their top teachers. And I said, look, I know they're top teachers. I'm friends with these people. They're closer to my age than your age, a lot closer to my age, if not a little older than me. Said, I don't think you think it's going to be as easy as you think it is. This requires a lot more than just, oh, I'm going to bounce around on this thing and teach, teach the choreography that I learned from one class. And that's one reason why I wanted to sort of bring this up, is to let people know that there is a lot that goes into it. And when you're talking about being an educator, I think it goes into a lot more detail. There's a lot more going into it. And I think most of it comes from your experience level, it comes from your voice and your experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we're talking two different things here a little bit, and I wanted to make that distinction. One is there's the influencers who I think of as the, minute and a half or minute on Instagram, like here's a fun new move or whatever, or watching on YouTube, watching influencers on YouTube, which is a little more detailed, often in depth. I think about, a bunch of fitness influencers I've watched on YouTube, who kind of have a plan or have an idea or have a viewpoint, or promote supplements or whatever. And then there's educators, who is more like what you and I do, and presenters and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different ways that this shows up in our world. Yeah. But all of it in the best, right? All the best versions of it have depth, have experience, have time in the saddle. And that's oftentimes what I'm looking for if I'm trying to identify a good presenter or legitimize, like read through the bios of an instructor or of an influencer. Like, I want to know where they came from, what they've done, and what their experience is. What do they know? What
exactly.
Do they
know? Every now and then I have clients who come in to see me and they say, I was on Instagram and I saw this, or my daughter introduced me to this person and they showed this one exercise. And I mean, how do I put this? A lot of influencers make their name and have several million followers because of how they look. That's one of the first things. They're young, they're attractive. I was listening to someone say, I got 150,000 followers on my Instagram account, all this kind of stuff. And I looked at him and I said, you could be a model. Cool.
Right.
But just because you film yourself doing exercises, I mean, it's kind of like softcore. I mean, literally, you're just watching people take off their shirts and exercise. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, no problem with that. Where I come down with this is when someone is telling them, here's what you need to do to solve this problem. Here's what you need to do to make this work. You need to lose weight. So here's what you do. Here's
the 3 things you need to do.
Here's
the 4 exercises to solve this. Here's all those things, right? Here's the 6 exercises for this. Here's the 5 foods you need to eat to change your life. Whatever, all those, which have been around forever, right? The quick and dirty, here's the thing, do it.
Exactly. One popped up on my feed and it was one of these suggestions on who to follow sort of thing. And I literally was like, okay, what's this say? And it's her from the backside, she has a very attractive backside, by the way. Her doing the stair climber or the step mill.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
all right, I know what's getting people's attention here, but okay, what's she trying to say? And it said, at this speed, and it shows her doing it, you're going to stay fat. At this speed, you're going to be skinny fat. And at this speed, you're going to be burning fat. And I'm looking at it and say, okay, the only fat that I'm looking is in her head because I'm not seeing a lot of science here. I'm not seeing anything being explained except for, do it faster, do it slower, do this, do that. I'm thinking, okay, how about actually, and I tried to even look read underneath. Maybe she explains herself in the thread. No, nothing. And I said, okay, you're going for showing us one of your best assets, obviously. And maybe that's going to get some people to like you and to follow you. Good for you. However, what's coming out of your mouth is really not what I would want my clients to listen to. I wouldn't want my children to listen to or my wife to listen to. And yes, occasionally they send me stuff, and say, is this correct? And I'll be like, yeah, no. I'm sorry, but it's not. And I'm not going to say that everything out there has to be scientifically based because there are lots of hypotheses out there that have just never been tested. But I think you and I both know that when we see someone teaching a class as a presenter or something, and the only data they have are, well, my clients see this result. Well, I had this one client who had this happen. It's like, you had one result. Okay, I don't think that one result is scientific proof yet. I'm not going to say everything needs to be validated with double-blind research. However, an anecdotal evidence on a single person is not the reason that I should be listening to this information either.
And I think what you bring up there, which I think is interesting, and I, you and I are educators. We're old. We work hard. We take ourselves seriously, and we have honestly, for both of us, a huge body of work that we have developed to try to bring information into the fitness and the movement and the Pilates world in a way that helps other teachers to be able to absorb it, digest it, and apply it. Right. I mean, that's what we've done. That's kind of been our mission in life. And that is, again, it's a valuable mission. That's why we're doing what we're doing. But there is part of today that is not interested in time, not interested in skill, not interested in expertise. And, to some extent, like if somebody wants to make they're gorgeous looking and they want to make a 1.5-minute video or a minute video with high production values, and then doing something that looks marvelous. Fantastic. Like, and again, if that's the deal, if I'm doing something to show off how beautifully I do this because I'm a beautiful person, that's whatever that is. Like, enjoy that. Like, as you said, enjoy the assets in front of you or whatever you're doing.
Exactly.
That's great. That's not education. It may be inspiration. It may be entertainment. But just understand kind of that difference between, is this actually teaching me something? Is this giving me information I need? Or is this just fun? And again, they can be both, or they can be either, or they can be neither, but just understand what you're looking at and what you're getting out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always look at these people and I do break it down to a couple of different things. An influencer is usually going to be, and I'm not saying that there aren't educators who are not attractive. They normally are, but they're usually going to be people who could be models. They're going to be showing off a lot more skin than necessarily, I would feel comfortable doing. They would be, again, touting their body and that sort of thing. And the problem that I have with that is when you're asking other people to try and do what you're doing. And I think you and I have talked about this because in the world of Pilates, we see a lot of people who are going to put style over substance when it comes to things online. And there are a lot of companies that do that with their marketing now, where they're hiring not necessarily the best Pilates instructors to teach something online. They're hiring the best looking people and the best looking models. And you watch them do the exercises, and even the basic exercises look wrong, and they're being instructed wrong. And Then they'll show something really crazy, way out, far out. I was watching this woman do a modified pull-up on a trap table, Cadillac,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
putting her feet behind her, so her back was arched like you
Yep.
wouldn't believe, in the
Yep.
straps, elevated at, okay, I was just watching her trying to getting into the position. To me, that was the most impressive part because of how she had to contort her body and everything and then climb up in different ways just to do a simple pull-up. And of course, my brain is always break it down to the easiest thing. Isn't there an easier way to do that?
Right. I
Maybe.
want to get that right. If the purpose of that is this, do I need to go through all these contortions, as it were, to make that happen? Yeah.
Exactly. And in looking at her doing it, I said, okay, she's going to get followers from this. She's going to
Right.
get people's attention because she's doing something crazy and, all of this kind of stuff. I said, okay, if that's what makes her happy, go for it. I worry about the beginning Pilates instructor or the beginning fitness instructor who watches this, who immediately starts saying, oh, this is what I should be doing too, because it looks
Right.
cool.
Right.
And we've all, I think everybody who's taken a BOSU class or a ball class and back from some of the amazing teachers that we've had, like I bring up Douglas Brooks, the stuff he can do on a BOSU blows my mind. But he also trains the U.S. Olympic snowboarding team. So guess what?
Right.
For those people, it's appropriate. It's
Exactly.
It's not appropriate for a 67-year-old, grandmother to maybe be jumping from BOSU to BOSU to BOSU. It might be, if that's your gig, go for it. However, I do see people who immediately watch that because I see it at the gym. They're watching something and say, oh, I got to try this. I'm like, oh, no, please, no. And it's just injury waiting to happen.
One of the things that this was sort of a funny moment. We talked about AI a few weeks ago, just as a general topic, and we were sitting in the car one day, and we I think it was Claude or something. We were in a Tesla. I think it was Grok. We basically said, Grok, who are the most famous people in Pilates right now? And they came up with 5 names that were all influencers that I'd never heard of. Like, which isn't surprising. I'm not a big social media person, but it was just really interesting. And I was like, huh. So then I looked up those people and, they all had a big Instagram following, and all they were doing was essentially showing off super advanced moves on the apparatus.
Yep.
And really no explanation, no education piece. It was fun to watch. Right. Yep. So that's the thing. And it was interesting because they were the most famous people in Pilates, but they weren't teaching anything. They may have been inspirational. Again, they may have been inspirational. It may have been fun. They may have been getting somebody's creative juices flowing a bit, but it was just interesting. Like, oh, that's what's happening now. Right.
And for me, my 18-year-old, he's fairly inflexible. Okay. Do I want him to actually learn from someone who can teach him how to stretch, or do I want him to go to a carnival, watch the contortionist and say, I should be doing that?
I think this gets to something we talk about, I think a lot, which is just critical thinking.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay if you're just enjoying something, but if you try to put to your point, 72-year-old jumping from BOSU to BOSU and she's got osteoporosis, probably not the best choice. Yep. And so it's also just like understanding, yes, these are interesting things. What's the purpose of it? What I always almost want to do when I see those little clips is just underwrite and go, why are you doing this? Like, what's the point? And the point can be, it felt good or it was fun. I'm not saying that's an illegitimate point.
That's fine.
Right. That's fine. But I'm kind of more interested in why and who and when and how would I apply this in a way that would actually make a difference in somebody's life in the long term, just because that's my perspective, as an educator and as a teacher of this method for a billion years. That's what I'm more interested in, is how can I make a difference in somebody's life? And that means teaching the same old thing that doesn't look so exciting on Instagram, but teaches them the skills they need to then be able to lift their kids up, run faster, bicycle longer, whatever it is that they want to do.
Yeah. When I was in China just a couple of weeks ago, teaching these courses. Now, I do social media in China through RedNote. But I don't look at it very much. I don't speak Chinese. So I have someone who does it for me because it's just Easier. They do. They translate all my stuff. It's great. And got a decent following there. Well, people in the class started asking me questions based on popular influencers. And
Mhm.
these influencers there are really, there's not much filter. And when I say filter, I'm talking a mental filter, because they're talking
Yeah.
about things that are only, now you and I both know Asian beauty standards are very, very strict and very high. They're
Very
taken so
specific.
super, very specific, and they are
Yeah.
taken very seriously. So these are influencers talking about, for fitness, how to correct your neck to make it have a better curve, because if you have a better curve in this way, it makes you look better. And
Mm.
there were a lot of weird, wacky things
Huh.
that they're asking me questions. I'm like, what are you trying to correct here? I said, first of all, you've already got a fairly straight spine because you're Asian. And compared to Caucasian spine, where we have a little bit more curvature to us, I said, that's just genetic. We have more curve in that regard. You have a little less. Nothing wrong with that. And they were really saying, oh, I have to do this. So they were forcing themselves to be more more head forward, protraction, trying, and they're getting these headaches because they're really compressing the uppermost portion of their cervical vertebrae. And I just said, no, please don't do that. Please don't do that. And I'm trying to show them how to do other things if they, want to look a little different here and there. And I'm thinking, there can be a lot of danger is what I'm saying, especially if you're looking at things from a point of view of, here's what I should look like, because this person's body is perfect. And they say, if I do this, I'm going to look like them.
Which is
That's an issue.
always the challenge, right? I mean,
Oh,
vanity-driven fitness is always a challenge because
always.
there is such a strong genetic component to your structure.
No
You
question.
know, I mean, I think about Chinese contortionists, right? Like they're lying down, they're prone, and they can basically turn their head up to look at the ceiling and touch their toes with their hands behind them,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I'm thinking, okay, so if that's your goal, and maybe it is, if you had your body or my body, that is never going to happen in this lifetime,
I'll be in
right?
traction for a week,
Oh my
not
God, no, I
longer.
don't even want to think about it. But even even for me, like when I turned, I think it was 25 or 26 for some reason, I realized, I'm never going to be 5'10" and I'm never going to be blonde. Which is a funny way of saying, this is the body that I have. This
Right.
is the structure that I have. This is what I can do with it, and what I don't know what I can't do with it, but I did at that point. There was some things I could not do with it, and
Mhm.
that's what it is. And it's I mean, there's just something destructive always about trying to be something that you're not going ever to be. And
Yeah.
not that you can't keep striving for being better at whatever
Better.
you are, but it's like yeah, those Asian beauty standards are really intense. And I've spent a lot of time in Korea, and they're even more intense in Korea
Yeah.
than they are in
Uh-huh.
China. And it's just like, that's just destructive.
It is.
Trying to be
It
somebody
is.
you're not, especially when you can't get there, and can't even get close, and are going to spend your life being unsatisfied because you can't get to that thing. I mean, that's not a happy life. That doesn't make you feel better about yourself or anything that you're doing.
Right. Right now, we're looking at, especially in Asia, there's a lot of people, and I find this in South America as well, where we're seeing this travel medicine. We're seeing people travel for plastic surgery.
Yeah, yeah,
We see
yeah.
that a lot in Korea. In
Yeah.
fact, I was staying in a hotel across the street from a place that's pretty much all this building did. And I was watching people come out looking wrapped up like, the old
Yes.
1960s mummies.
Yeah.
And I literally thought it was a hospital in an emergency type hospital, because everybody had these head bandages and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, what accident? And then they said, oh, no, 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 no. They just had a little work done. So what do you
Yeah.
mean a little work done? That's a lot of work. I remember teaching a course at Pilates on Tour in Korea, and we were doing some exercises, and including a lot of thoracic rotation, which they're usually much better at than I am. But this one person couldn't move very well. And I
Huh.
was watching her, young, gorgeous, of Asian beauty standards. She was hitting 9 out of 10 of all of things. I was thinking, okay, what's going on? And I asked my interpreter, I said, are you seeing what I'm seeing with her movements? And she said, yes. She said that she had breast augmentation about a year ago. She has so much scar tissue, she can't actually turn through her thoracic anymore. I don't know how it was done. I'm not asking those kind of questions, but
right.
She was so afraid to move.
Yeah.
She looked good, but she was robotic. She could barely move.
Yeah.
And it really made me think, wow, what are we doing to our bodies? Injecting all of these things. You're seeing all these, they see it on TV. They see it on, especially now with social media. They want that Brazilian butt lift, or they want this, or they want that. It's like, okay, if you want to do something like that, do your research first. Don't just jump in and know it's going to cost a lot, and that there are going to probably be some consequences that you're unaware of in the long run, especially when it comes to your fascial suit, because they have to cut into you and they have to do some things. I recently had surgery, and guess what? My fascial suit has more holes in it than it did before, and it had a bunch before. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm probably going to move a little differently than I did in the past. That's okay. I understand this. Mine was emergency. But when you're doing it in a situation like this, and they're expecting to come out, quote unquote, perfect, I think those expectations have to be, tempered down a little bit and just brought down just a hair, because perfection, like you said, genetics are going to be what'll get you the closest. And if you want to fine tune, that's one thing. I've had some people who lost 20 pounds or whatnot, got down to a body fat that looked incredible. And it's, wow, you look fantastic. But they still weren't perfect in their mind because they didn't look like whoever they were looking at.
Yep.
Even though they looked fantastic, they would be considered, perfect by a lot of other people. And that's dangerous.
This is a whole topic I did not think we were going to go into today. So
yeah,
okay,
sorry.
We've gotten there. No, I'm just it's one of the issues, certainly with influencer culture as a general thing, especially in fitness, is exactly that. Is that somebody sees, and this is true with fitness forever. You see somebody who looks a certain way and you think, I want to look like that person, so I'm going to do that thing. I mean, Pilates for years was the thing that didn't really build bulk, but made long, lean muscles. Well, it's kind of true. But again, what's your body type? Do you build long, lean muscles, or do you build little bulky muscles? Because that's your body type. That's your genetics.
Yep.
And again, I don't know. This is me. I'm old. I don't care anymore. In the sense of, I want bodies to work well. I want people to be able to move with ease and with grace and with comfort. And that is my goal. And that's my goal as an educator. That's my goal as a presenter. That's my goal. I don't care whether you're 40 pounds overweight, or you have no hamstring flexibility, or you're 75 years old. I don't care. I want you, whoever you are, to be able to move better. And that is maybe even more lost in this day of Instagram and Facebook and all these people out there saying, this is, you can be like me if you just do these crazy, whatever these crazy things are. It just, honestly, it's disturbing to me. I just think, I don't know, I think people should be a little more comfortable with who they are and figure it out and do the best they can to be the best person they can be. There we go. There's my philosophy of the moment.
No. And I'm right with you. My story, I really did not have the optimum body for so many years, being multiple hundreds of pounds overweight, and fought with it like crazy. And you know what? I still work at it every single day. And it's one of those things that you realize that in my mind, perfection is never an ending. It's like, enjoy the journey, not the destination, because I don't think there is a destination, because as my body ages, well, guess what? My goals change. I would love to look like a certain way, but guess what? My genetics can only limit it to a certain amount. And now that I'm much older than I am, I just want to move better. I want to be able to get up and down off the floor, not hurt myself when I do something silly, like trip and fall or whatever it is. I want to perform better in life. So your goals are going to continue to change. We still have vanity. I joke all the time that clients come in and all they want to do is get out of pain. And as soon as the pain starts going away, suddenly vanity comes out to play. So it's now I want to get rid of underneath my arm, and I want to reduce the second chin and things like that. It's like, all right. And I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming because, I could see I could see it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, let's maximize what you have. Let's take a look at what your genetics are. And we're planning to do a GLP-1 update in a couple of weeks. And with GLP-1s, I'm having a lot of clients coming in and their bodies are changing. It's great. But now, they may be looking at things about influencers and whatnot. And I have to remind them, you're 60, you're 55. Maybe some of those goals aren't as realistic as maybe you think they are. Let's talk about reality. And I think when we have people who are influencers, who people are listening to, it's sometimes our job to remind them, hey, guess what? Let's set up some clear expectations of what can we do and work toward those goals. And if we exceed them, fantastic. But I'm not going to set up really outrageous expectations that I'm never going to let them see, because then they're only going to be disappointed in working with me.
Exactly. So I want to say a little something else too, because again, I've been watching a bunch of influencers over this period of time because I knew this topic was coming up. And one other thing, like I was watching on YouTube, and there's a fitness influencer on there who really focuses on supplements. And that's kind of his thing. So he does a lot of nutrition stuff and a lot of other things. And one of the things that I really realized after watching a few of them, and it took a few, because he always says, here's a study, and you look at the study, and the study is legitimate on a certain micronutrient that makes like some kind of difference in something, right? Yep. And then I realized like every single one of his things was sponsored by whoever made that particular supplement. And at some point, if you followed him for a period of time and took all of his supplements, it would probably cost you $4,000 a month, and God knows it would be doing you any good. Yeah. So that's the other thing too, is people promoting products, promoting certain methods, promoting certain equipment. And then it's also, what are their goals? Like, what are their goals, and what are your goals, and are they a match?
Yes.
I think is also just something to think about.
Well, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it was, when people started doing a little bit more of this influencer culture, we're talking the beginning of like MySpace and Facebook and all of that sort of thing. People wanted to get known, and they would start touting something like their system, or let's say the infomercial that was really popular, Susan Powder, Billy Blanks, all of these type of things. And some of those things were fine. Some of them were fine, and a lot of them were BS. But you always have to ask yourself, why are they doing this? For the most part, it's a financial gain.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to financial gain, that's one of those things that always makes me a little leery. I remember, who was it? I can't remember his name right now. Not Dr. Phil, but the other one that was on TV.
Dr. Oz?
That's the guy. He was touting all of these supplements that were such BS. Now, I'm going to say this. In working in radio and a little bit of television, but mostly radio for a number of years, it's hard to fill the hours. You're doing a weekly show. It's hard to fill the hours. I get it. Totally.
Yes, absolutely.
But to be saying you need to go out and buy this, elderberry, cream because it's going to make all the wrinkles on your butt go away. Okay. And then they start saying, here's all this documented proof, and here's the inventor of this, and here's this. And all I'm thinking is, really? Is this what it's come down to? This is snake oil. That's all it really was. And then it was proven that he was getting kickbacks or whatnot, sponsorship deals from all these different companies.
Yep.
When there's a financial gain to all of this, you have to really watch out.
Yeah.
Yep. it's one of those things that you see. And I've seen a lot of podcasters, I've seen a lot of influencers who will have sponsored things. And at least now they will say a sponsorship somewhere on the screen
They
because they have
should.
to.
Sometimes they don't. They're
Sometimes
supposed
they
to.
don't.
Doesn't mean they always do. Because I've seen
Good
sometimes
point.
when they clearly didn't. But yeah, they're supposed to say like, I am sponsored by so and so, which always is like red flag for me. And maybe that's fine. It may be totally legitimate, and they're sponsored by them because they actually use that product and like it. But it's also just like, okay, know where the money is.
Oh yeah.
Right, because podcasters and YouTube people particularly, they get all their money from sponsorships or from Patreon or from something like that,
Yep.
right? But a lot of it's from sponsorships. So they're directly dependent on that. Different than even commercial television or whatever, where the actors are paid to be there doing that thing, right? They're not, and yes, advertising pays for a lot of that, but indirectly. If these guys are directly paid by the advertisers to do their job, and that's just an important thing to think about always: is where's the money?
I can let you know, and I haven't even told you about this very much, but I'll let everyone who's listening know. Little backstory of what's going on in the podcasting world. We don't have the most largest following in the world. We're movement professionals. We have a small niche, but I can't tell you how many emails I get per week asking us to be brand ambassadors for lines of clothing, for this, for that, all sorts of things, and saying, we would love to have you represent our line, da, 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 and I just delete them all because you know what? It's crap. The first couple, I'll be honest, the first time someone said they wanted to sponsor, hey, all right, this might be cool.
I'm getting somewhere.
All right. And I, click on something and I thought, oh my, no, I really don't think I'm going to look good in booty shorts. I just don't think that's going to look good on my body. Sorry to say, I'm beyond the booty short era. So just saying, me, you do you in life. But I know for me, that's not probably the look I'm going to go for when I'm at the gym. And I laugh at some of these things. I'm like, wow, okay, they really are just hitting everybody. They don't care who they're asking. And that's what a lot of these are doing. And let's face it, if that's your income, if that's the only way you're making money, you're going to take a lot of those deals and you're going to start touting things you don't necessarily believe in. And I think you and I said a long time ago, nope, we have no interest in that. That's not what we do. We have our beliefs. And a lot of podcasters do, and some influencers do. But I think once you start getting money involved, I think decisions are made differently. And I can tell you a story about this. It happened to me. Okay. I worked for a gym and I was doing nutritional consulting. Okay. Was I going a little outside of my scope of practice? Probably. My degree's in kinesiology, but I did a ton of nutritional research as a minor and whatnot. So I understood it. And one of the things was we needed to sell supplements. And at first it was like, okay, I just wanted to sort of make my minimum quota. I was giving only the basics, just the basics that would make my boss happy so that no one would yell at me. Okay. Like a vitamin, multivitamin. Okay. Everybody can use a multivitamin for the most part. Okay. It's not going to hurt you. But I got promoted. I got sent to a different gym where I was the only person doing this. So I got 10% of all sales of supplements. And within 6 or 8 weeks, I realized my numbers were going up. And I was making suggestions that I probably never would have made before.
Yeah.
Now, this was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it was. I mean, this was back in, it was in the 1900s. It was a long time ago. So, but it's because I was seeing a substantial increase. Thousands of dollars a month was coming in to my pocket. And as a college student, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Until I made some suggestions. This is when ephedra, mahong, all of these, things for metabolic enhancement were very popular. I made a suggestion to someone who had some medical conditions that I didn't know about. And she ended up being taken to the hospital.
Oh, geez.
Now, she took too much. I said, follow the instructions. Only it says take one in the morning, one in the afternoon. That's it. Okay, all this. She wanted to lose weight faster, so she doubled the dose. She called me from she worked at a bank. She said, I'm lying on the floor and my heart rate's 150. I said, you better get in now. I said, ambulance now. Don't be calling me, call an ambulance.
Exactly.
And that was my wake-up call. And
That's
that
a wake-up
moment I
call.
realized, oh my gosh. Now, was it considered safe to take because it was a supplement? Sure. I did not know her medical backstory. She never mentioned any of that to me. I had no idea, but I still took responsibility. I made sure she was doing okay, and I apologized profusely. I'm sure the gym I was working for wish I hadn't. And she never held me responsible. She said, yeah, I was just taking too much. I was just taking more than I should because I read it in a magazine and, I had it anyway. So I was taking, and I said, yeah. But after that, I really changed my ways, and I didn't stay with that job for very much longer because it made me uncomfortable for the decisions I made. And over the years, I've had a number of people come to me and say, why don't you sell supplements in your gym? I say, because as soon as the dollars become involved and I'm making money on it, I'm going to probably make some suggestions based on that unconsciously that will make me lose faith in myself and lose some respect. So if I like something, I'll say, you can order it through here. You can order it on Amazon. You can do that. Said, I don't need to sell it because I don't like the way that makes me feel.
That is such a good story, Brian. With all the things that we're talking about, what's the reward? How do you do it? How do you manage that? How do you personally and me personally stay clean with what we're offering to people? Making sure we stay on one side of the line, which is really keeping their best interests at heart. They pay us money. That's good. They should. That's an important thing. But for the skill that we have, making sure that we're giving them good value for what we're doing, and that we're not necessarily motivated by that, right? Selling them something because we know we're going to get a good kickback off of it, even if it's not necessarily, they could probably use that. It's probably not going to do them any harm, right? I can just picture the thinking that can go on in your head. It's $60 a bottle. And that means I'm going to get $6. And I do that with every client I'm seeing this week. And, I've got enough money to pay for gas or whatever it is.
Right. Exactly.
Like that thinking is so insidious. And you see that all over podcasting and YouTube for sure. That's where a lot of that is driven by.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's always just made me uncomfortable. I see too many podcasters do that. And I see too many influencers and YouTubers and things like that. Now, if I have something that I'm selling of my own that I believe in, there's a couple of, Al loves, woodworking, and I love music stuff. So I'll be watching someone who, is a guitar teacher, and he'll have a guitar book talking about, train your ear better to listen. Okay, he believes in this, and it's helped him and his students, and it's usually for a decent price. So I'm like, good. He wrote it. Great. I have a book. I'd have no problem selling my stuff because I believe in it, because I wrote it. I believe in it. And if I didn't, then I shouldn't have written it in the first place. But when it does get sticky, when you are representing another company that you don't know all the research behind it necessarily. And if money is the only reason you're doing it, I think that's where we really get sticky.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So getting this conversation has really been wide ranging, I have to say.
It has been.
So I'm gonna like bring it a little bit somewhere. And where I want to bring it into is, if you're listening to this from a number of different perspectives. So first of all, if you're a client or an instructor and you're looking at influencers, because we all do, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever it is, YouTube, whatever you got. And even us, for that matter, honestly, as podcasters, just looking with a critical eye, really finding those that speak to you, being aware of your worldview biases a bit and what those are, and just knowing that those, you're going to bring those with you to those experiences. And if you're interested in becoming an influencer or being a presenter or doing that, I'm going to be very old fashioned here and I'm going to say, do the work.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is educate yourself as best you can, learn everything you can, take courses from people you admire and respect who have, years in the field, and then really work with clients. If you're working with clients 20, 30 hours a week for years after years after years, and you're paying attention, and those are not always happening, and you're paying attention, you'll learn something. You'll learn something from every single person that goes by. And that's, for me, certainly what has fed my passion and my interests, is just observing people over time, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, seeing all the weird little things that go into making somebody better or not. And then honing your skills of how do I then communicate that? How do I communicate it to clients? How do I communicate it to other teachers? And then how do I communicate it to an audience if I'm doing a podcast or I'm presenting or I'm a YouTuber or I'm at a conference? And those are all really important skills, learn the stuff, practice the stuff, and then practice how you articulate the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To put it in like a pretty simple formula. And then practice.
No, it's very important.
Then practice. Like, I don't know how many, at one point, I was just trying to figure out how many courses I'd taught. And I think at this point, I was just looking at anatomy in 3D classes that I taught. When I added them all up, because I've been teaching them for, 15 years or something, it was like 70 classes. Like, I've taught this course 70 times. Mm-hmm. Or something like that. It was ridiculous. And that was only one of the many, many, many classes that I've taught over the many years. And that also came to me when I work with new presenters, because they think that they have those skills automatically. They think they have your skills. They think they have my skills, because they do. Everybody projects onto whoever they're looking at. Oh, I could do that. Maybe you can, but you got to try. You got to work it. You got to practice. And then you got to be self-critical. Right. And then over time, you get better, hopefully, if you continue doing it, and you understand how to be more effective, and you take feedback and you move forward. But it's a skill building long-term process to get good at anything, but to get good at those kinds of things, really understanding what you have to say and saying it well, that takes time and practice.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about that a couple of days ago. There are some teachers out there who understand the information, know it like the back of their hand, but they're not very good teachers. They're good regurgitators, but they're not really good teachers. And I say there's more to it than just talking the words. There's an entertainment value. There has to be something that gets people to listen to you, to draw them in, how you use your voice, how you use your body, how you use everything. You and I both did years of things like acting. You did dance. I did stand-up comedy. I did radio and television. There's something to be said about having those skills as well when you go into other things, because we can tap from those and make it a lot more fun for the people who are listening to us. We can feel a room and know when it's dying down. We know how to dial it up and turn our volume up without turning our volume up. How to amplify ourselves. All of these are skills that you build in time. And it's not just saying the words on a paper. You can listen to 10 people give the same speech, and only one of them really hits. Everyone else is just sort of going through the motions. And it's a real skill that takes time to build. Something that I'm going to remind people about influencer culture is, when you see something, ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one, if they're saying this, you have to do this, does it make sense? Simple. Does this ring true in your heart? Because there have been many times I've sat in classrooms when I'm watching someone else talk and they're entertaining. They're a good speaker. They've got the skills to talk, but what they're saying doesn't make sense. My brain is just thinking, there's something missing here. And I'm not saying they got a screw loose. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense from my perspective, a movement point of view, kinesiologic, anatomic. Something's not making sense. And sometimes what that makes me do is see 2 or 3 of their classes and think, okay, maybe I'm the one missing something. Maybe I'm the one who's not smart enough, or I can't hear what they're trying to say yet. And I'd say that's only happened once, that I took a bunch of courses and finally it hit and I went, oh, there's something to this. All right. I wasn't ready to hear it at the beginning. 99% of the time, I'd say, if it's not ringing true, it's probably not true. And there's something missing. So I'm going to say that. Ask yourself, does it make sense? And number 2 is, does it look safe?
Yeah.
When you see someone doing, when you see someone doing something, just because you can do it at age 25 doesn't mean that I can do it at age 55, or that she can do it at age 75, or he can do it at age 45, or whatever it is. It doesn't mean it's safe for everybody. And you have to really ask yourself, does it look safe for the person that I'm working with? Because I think we've all hurt people in our careers, especially when we were baby trainers, baby Pilates instructors. We probably did things that we were like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. But we learned. That was many, many, many years ago. But if it doesn't look safe, there's probably a reason that something inside of you is like, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. So sometimes I think you got to listen to your gut on all of these.
I also want to add one little piece on that, which is in Pilates specifically, there are people using the equipment in ways that are not safe for the equipment.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not designed to hold weight in that ways. It's not designed to be moved in that particular fashion. Resistance is coming from a funny angle. Like, there's a lot of that happening out there with people just not understanding physics, mechanics, and how things work and don't work. So that's another thing too, is there's the physical safety of the person. There's also, is that going to break something? Like, is that equipment designed for that particular weird move that's happening right now? So those are another opportunity for safety, is just being aware of what the machine can and can't and should and shouldn't do.
I remember when I got a Cadillac, trap table. And one of the yellow spring, I was thinking, I wonder if I can do this move. And it was sort of a chopping motion. And let's just say I put that spring through a range of motion that it was not designed to do. I tried to make it a cable. And at the end of it, it became a cable because it stretched all the way. I mean, it literally stretched out to the point that it was no longer like a spring anymore. It was twice as long as when I first saw it. I said, oops, I guess that's not supposed to do that. But again,
you busted it.
I broke
That's
it.
hard to do. You busted
it is. I mean,
man.
I'm a strong enough person, I guess. And it was a yellow. It was a light guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was one of those things that I was like, I wonder if I can do this. And I was like, I guess not. So you're absolutely right. Some things are not meant for that. Find another piece of equipment to do it with. You don't have to make everything work on every piece of equipment. So I made that mistake in my life. I'll be the first to admit it.
Oh man. Well, we have wandered here and there. We have talked about presenting. We've talked about being an influencer, some cautionary tales, things to be aware of. Hopefully this has been enlightening in some ways, or interesting in some ways, or maybe even inspiring in some ways. If you guys really want to move up in your career and become somebody who's got a little more influence in the world, we wish you good luck on that, and reach out to us if you want any help or advice on that. I think we've got plenty.
Yeah, absolutely. Best way to do that is through our Gmail. Hit us up, movingconvos@gmail.com. It's the easiest way to get in touch with us. You can also do it through Instagram. Moving Convos is our handle there. Nora and I also have our private ones. You can check that out in the show notes. And also YouTube under my name, Brian Ritchie. We have a lot of things. This episode will post there. So if you ever just want to watch us, we're kind of animated more so than we are vocally. So, I mean, my hands and body's always moving around. So you can always check us out live and in color there. Check out our shorts. Hit that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it every time you do. It helps us out a lot. We're not doing this for the money, as we said. We're doing this basically to spread the joy of movement and whatnot. So until next week, for Nora St. John and Brian Ritchie, we'll see you then.
Bye, guys.